So I've just started a first time playthrough of Fallout New Vegas, and I've been playing it on my brother's Xbox Series X while he's on holiday. Pretty much straight away it felt very smooth thanks to the FPS boost on the newer Xbox consoles, which brings a lot of older games up from 30 FPS up to 60 FPS or more. I personally own an Xbox One X, which is a lot less powerful, so I only get 30 FPS on New Vegas. Out of curiosity, I was looking up the performance across all the Xbox consoles, and I didn't actually realise how unstable the Xbox 360 version was. It has a lot of frame rate dips and screen tearing, and looks like it just would be a bit of a frustrating experience. I think I would have found that very jarring and quite tough to get used to, so I'm really glad that I can try out the Series X version for a little bit, and at the very least have a much smoother experience on the One X. This got me thinking about how playing older games with more modern quality of life improvements can really smooth out some of those rougher edges and make them much more approachable. Recently, I've been gravitating more towards retro and older games. There's something about them that just has such a charm and a soul and a passion and a simplicity that feels like it's missing from a lot of newer releases for me. However, what newer releases may lack in source, they make up for in polish, which leads to an overall smoother gameplay experience that may be easier to pick up for the first time. A good example of this is how Fallout fans are often divided over the differences in polish and experience between the older games like 3 and New Vegas and the newer games like Fallout 4. But there's so many ways you can play retro games now that can add a bit of polish to them, make them a bit more accessible, or just make first-time experiences and revisits that much more appealing. So with New Vegas again, for example, it's not even just the frame rate improvement that's a good incentive to play on more powerful hardware, it's also the faster loading times. In a game where you're regularly fast travelling, entering new areas, or at least in my case, dying often, the faster loading times really help streamline the whole experience by keeping you immersed in that world and cutting out a lot of the downtime. Also, if you have a short play session, you feel like you've actually spent more time playing the game and less time looking at a loading screen. This isn't to say that you need newer hardware to enjoy older games though. Use what you've got. You don't need the newest, flashiest piece of tech, but if you have access to it, then it does a nice job at enhancing and bringing everything a bit closer to modern standards while keeping the core experience intact. As well as playing on newer hardware, the added benefit of playing some games long after they release is that there's been plenty of time to iron out any game-breaking bugs and big issues. I was honestly baffled to learn about how broken New Vegas was at launch, so I'm glad I can now have a much more stable and much less frustrating experience. This obviously only applies to games that were released after, say, the mid-2000s when game updates became a thing, so you can't really make this argument for retro games. Speaking of retro games, emulation is a massively popular and accessible way to experience them and make them more approachable. I recently homebrewed my Wii and 2DS and installed a bunch of emulators, and something I noticed that really improved my experience was save states. Say what you will about them, but a lot of retro games can be very difficult and very punishing with where you can save and where you can restart, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. Whether you like them or you think they've ruined the original intended experience, having save states can really make that experience less frustrating and more forgiving, and allow you to feel like you've made some progress, even on really tough games or limited play sessions. For the 2DS especially, save states are really handy because they add to the portability factor, allowing you to quickly pick up and put down games during a limited play session without feeling like you haven't made any progress. Emulators do take a bit of time and a bit of tinkering to set up, but if you've got the time or you enjoy that sort of thing, I can't recommend it enough. If you really enjoy tinkering with games, you might enjoy modding them. I personally don't know much about modding as I play on console, but it can be a great option to fix lingering bugs and issues, implement new gameplay features and quality of life improvements, or change the core experience entirely. Bringing it back to Fallout New Vegas, I hear a lot of people say that if you're playing it on PC, you're going to want to mod it. A popular resource I've seen is Viva New Vegas, which is a comprehensive modding guide and curated collection of mods that can either be used to fix bugs and improve performance and stability while keeping the vanilla experience unchanged, or enhance the gameplay by introducing quality of life improvements and new gameplay features while preserving the game's original feel and intent. Or you can just turn Mr. House into Shrek, I don't care. Personally, if I had a PC, these are the kind of mods I'd be more interested in rather than the wacky or drastically different ones. But it's completely up to you how much you want to change. The amount of freedom, customization and choice you have is why modding is so cool.
So if there are any older games that you really want to get into but you struggle to get past some of the jank, lack of polish and the difficulty, or you just want to have an easier way to access them, there are so many ways to make them more approachable and to fit more in line with the time you have or how you enjoy to play games.